A little while back, we had a press conference where Kelly Cousins said that this was going to feel like a preseason. You're going to treat it as a preseason. I'd like to say you've had one hell of a preseason prep for the second half of the season. Just give us your thoughts on tonight and what you saw from the squad and how everybody's feeling.
I think you saw a lot of the squad in terms of preseason. I think they were very tired as well. Thought we were, especially first off, very sloppy on the ball. If you just compare this kind of game that we played today and compare it with the game that we played against Portland, if only we could raise our own intensity in the first half, I think we could have been more up and just played like a bit better. But if you just look in general, I think the dynamics are good. I think this week we spoke about the players that are making the goals. If then you look today at who made the goals, you can only be very happy with the fact that almost everyone offensively scored a goal, scored a few good goals, and then the second half, like we went into the halftime, we made a few things very clear towards each other. We had a few agreements. We were not really living up to those agreements. We just wrote them on the board and we said, like, hey, if we can just stick to those 5 or 6 very easy things, we're gonna have a good second half, and it's more about structure again. I know I talk a lot about structure, but if you would just compare the first half with the second half in terms of structure, sometimes you just give it away yourself. I think that was like the negative part on the whole game. And if you just look at the positive part, I mean, we scored 9 goals in 3 games, and I think we have to be happy about that. I think that's a positive thing. We get the people on the ball that we want to have on the ball. I think if you look at today's to the performance that Bracken had, I think she was amazing. She just kept on going, even in the 94th minute. Paige was able to score a goal. I think we talked about that last week or the last game as well. So I think we're making little steps, and I think that's what we have to do, step by step, not skipping any steps. But we can only be happy about today.
If this is something you want to keep in the locker room, please just say bump or pass. But I am curious. We saw that disjointed kind of nature of that first half. Connections were being made. Uh, what were some of those non-negotiables in the halftime talk? Because right from the start of the second half, it seemed to improve.
But I think in general, like it's like I said on Saturday, there is this part that is attitude, there is a part that is technique, and if we just look at today, like we lost a lot of second balls. We were not counter pressing at all. Each and every time we lost the ball, we're not chasing anything. I think that was also, I think, 90% of my coaching in the second half. Like each and every time we lost the ball, if we were able just to press them higher, I think if you look at the stats as well, second half we were better in recovering balls on their attacking or in our attacking third, which gave us the opportunity to be calm on the ball, to get the ball out, get our structure in again. I think those were a few things, but we wrote down like 6 elements, of which 3 are technique, 3 of them are the attitude part. And I think if we just look at the space that they were given in the pocket zones, like the zones between the outside back, center back, winger, and then the defensive mid, they were huge. We know that, like, if you just look at the analysis that we made it before the game, like we highlighted those zones. That was the only reason why I wasn't really happy with the first half, because you just saw that what we prepared in a way was happening, but we were just not executing in the best way. And I think it's also what I told him after the game. Like I'm someone that's very hard. I'm never really satisfied. But it's also because I have a feeling that we can do more with this group than what we're doing at the moment. And I think that's what I want to do. I also approached a few players individually. I've been very hard today with Dana Fuder. It's easier for me to speak in Dutch, obviously, with her, and that's also what I told her. Like, you need pressure to make diamonds, and I'm pretty sure she has like still a good 45 to 50% more that she can do on the pitch, both off the ball and on the ball. And if she just believes in the fact that we'll work with her and that she makes herself coachable in a way that we can go all the way, we're gonna enjoy Dana also in the second half. And I think that's the sort of dynamic that I want with this player. I'm very high demanding, but if they buy in, I'm also pretty sure we'll get there. And I think that's the sort of relationship I want to get with the players.
This might be kind of a hard question for you to answer because you weren't really here before July. But in the whole month of June, this team scored 1 goal, and in July they scored 10. So based on when you first got here to today, what do you feel like has changed the most to allow that sharp increase in production?
We also have to compare the NWSL with the Summer Cup. I think that's also been just keeping the feet on the ground. I think obviously we scored goals and we were good on the ball, but it was also a drop in sort of the teams you play against. We saw Portland without quite good players. If you just look at the Olympics, I think all the players are doing pretty well. So we have to make that analysis. But in general, like I said, it's about getting the right people on the ball at the right moment. And I think if you look at the runs that Brecken Mozinho made today, I think that was amazing, to be honest. And that's, if you can do this against other teams, like maybe you don't score 5, but in those kind of games you might need only 1 goal. And I think that's the whole thing about this Summer Cup. Everyone opens up, everyone tries to do new stuff. And that's what we analyze and we try to use in our advantage. Looking at the NWSL, maybe you need like 1 or 2 of those moments because it's one of the most competitive leagues in the world. So it's about learning Brecken when she needs to make that run, learning Paige when she needs to be in that pocket zone. And if we get those things ready for the competition, then we'll see what happens.
My other question was about Christina Roque. She's kind of rotated in a couple games and lost a little bit as goalkeeper. What have you seen from her that's encouraged about her development?
Well, I think that was something we discussed with both Mandy and Roque 2 weeks ago. That it was they both gonna play 2 games, so we play in 2 weeks. We play Crystal Palace at home. That's when Mandy will be playing again because it's also very short to the competition. And like I said, Roque is a goalkeeper that is pushing other players on training. She's making sure that Mandy has a tough day each and every time. She tries to get involved as much as possible. And I think it's just the thing that you need to do with your second goalkeeper, third goalkeeper. Like that relationship is very important. It's the same like having a second outside back, having a second center back, making everyone like so competitive that the margins are very small between each other, and that's how you push your players as well. I think Liv came on the pitch today. Obviously, Zoe was like she knew why. We explained why there was not a performance gap from Zoe. It was more like we need players to be ready, so Liv needs to play 60 minutes today. And then you get Zoe on the pitch, and she's like she was going. Like she took her 3 seconds, and she immediately played out at 3v2. I think that's like the thing that you want. Like she went on the pitch, she understood why, she accepted why, but she was still playing with a mindset like, hey, I'm gonna show something. Like I want to play as well. And if you get those competitions between two players and you keep the respect very high towards each other, you can only have fun on training as well.
Coach, the men's team in this organization had a staying historic. Or they used to say the team was historic and how they won during their big moment. Are you seeing, and maybe it's still in bits and pieces and flashes, but are you seeing like team ball type elements where it feels like these players are playing off each other maybe a little bit more than you thought?
I think looking at the history I have with teams as well, I think very important is that you need a group of friends that is able to be very hard on each other. Like if you want them to perform, you need them to be polite towards each other, but you also need them to open up towards each other and be very competitive in a way. So I do like the fact that we are a group at the moment. I just want to endorse the fact that we can push each other more. If we're given a bad pass, just address it, make people accountable. And if we get that accountability from each other, we're going to grow. Like if we are pushing on details, if we're pushing on that, like again today, we give a pass towards the feet instead of like that 1 meter before a player, making it very easy to just make that ball playable immediately. Like those small things. And today I saw Paige being the captain that we want her to be, like pushing people. We had the first break and she said like, and she used other language, but I think she literally said like, hey, you're playing a bad game. You're doing this wrong. We need to do this more. We need to do this more. That's what we need from each other. If we get that respect from each other, we're able to address each other in that way, but just keeping it very respectful, then we're gonna grow as well. And I think that's a bit the dynamics that we need at this point. Like we need everyone to not settle with playing a bad game. We need to perform. Like we said, I think 3 weeks ago, we're in this competition as well, Summer Cup and NWSL, not to participate, want to compete. If you want to compete, we need to compete in training sessions, in the dressing room, out on a pitch, and that's the dynamic we need each and every time.
Got into right where I was going to follow up, which is about the captain. She's a lot more vocal and leadership and all that. It's like she's raised her level in a lot. That's accurate.
I think she does definitely. I think she can still get even better. I think what I did is we looked at games that she used to play in previous teams. Now, obviously, you see a few threats of a type of player that she's not having at the moment. And I think very important each and every time when we look at a player, we need the player to decide which type of player she wants to be. And it's not the coach, it's not the team, it's not us that needs to say like, hey, we want you to be that kind of player. Player has certain qualities, player has certain threats. We need to use those threats. And when we do that, players get confidence. I think we get Paige way more on the ball in the inner channels. We get her way more in the ball on the pocket zones. And then if she wants to run, she can run. But she's like, she can get in between. She gets a free roll. And I think that's what she's been enjoying so far. We communicate a lot. I think Paige and I have every 2 days, we just sit together, talk about what's happening, talk about how we're going to train, what we need to do. And I think that's just very important towards this group. They had a rough first 6 months. So we cannot just jump in and say like, hey, this is what we want you guys to do. We need to keep that dialogue very positive and open. And then we see players like Paige growing, but I also think like this team has been growing so far. I think a few players of which we almost never talk, but Dana Fuder, other players, Kale. Today I think Kale was amazing. Like she reads the game so well. I think a few times you think like, oh, she's gonna be outrun. Like she started earlier, but then Kale is there. I saw a very good one-on-one defending on the box today as well when she kept her body open, waited for the right moment. I think that's just a team performance. They're all growing and it's step by step, but we'll get there. Pretty confident that we'll make a few good steps towards the Crystal Palace game, getting us ready for the big game.
Enhorabuena, coach, porque yo creo que han sido los dos mejores partidos de la temporada con diferencia. Mi pregunta es, ¿qué claves has usado para un cambio tan espectacular del equipo en tan poco tiempo? Se ve por fuera que has colocado piezas en sitios importantes, diferentes, y eso se ha notado en el equipo, pero me gustaría que me dijeras qué claves has tocado para que este cambio sea tan rápido y tan radical.
So these last two games throughout the season have been like the best games of the season so far. What are your key things that you've toned in on to see such a major drastic difference in such a short amount of time since you took over?
Small spaces, a lot of small spaces, making players very uncomfortable. We have to get them out of a comfort zone each and every time. I think you can ask the two center backs each and every time I play a ball towards them. It's not in their feet. It's always on a very difficult height. It's never like it's on the knee height. It might be something on sometimes on the chest height. Like we need to make them better. We need to make them ready for a game. And in a game, very often you don't get that ball on your feet. You get that ball on knee height. You get that ball on this height, and it's making people comfortable in the situations that we'll have towards games. I think the way that we train is very often we see an image, we copy the image to the pitch, we put them in that image, and we train, we keep on going. The game before or the days before we played against Portland, we did a lot of 3v2s just because in the game against Seattle we had 4 or 5 of them. We didn't play them out well. If you look today, I think the goal that Brecken makes is a very obvious 3v2 where she goes wide, she tucks in at the right moment when the defender is making a step. So it's really all about like our training philosophy at the moment is just making it very game realistic, very tight spaces, throwing balls sometimes to their head like, hey, and now do something with it, like get comfortable with these kind of balls. And if I look at the performances that Kay Del Fava and Kale are having on the ball, but also Ana Tejada, they're good on the ball. I think that's just putting them into those situations and keep on pushing them. And it's all about that comfort zone. Like no one grows from being in a comfort zone. So that's what we try to do as much as possible, keeping it within a good range, and then they'll grow.
So se enfocó mucho en espacios chiquitos apretados y también en el partido contra Seattle tuvieron muchos contraataques de 3 contra 2, pero que no los jugaron bien, so se enfocaron mucho en eso adelante de Portland, pero que los hace sentir incómodos. Si está echando un balón, no se los echan en el aire, a ver que la puedan controlar para hacer las prácticas durante el mismo juego, pero que se enfocó mucho en eso.
La última pregunta es sobre el torneo. Con este último gol prácticamente está clasificado para semifinales. Va a ser muy posible que el equipo esté metido en semifinales. ¿Está este equipo preparado para luchar por su primer título? ¿Crees que hay mentalidad para eso?
So with the goal that Brecken scored, you obviously topped the groups. Now there's a possibility of you advancing to the semifinals. Are you guys going to be pushing? Are you guys ready to push to try to actually win the cup?
We're in here to compete, not just participating. Each and every time when we walk on a pitch, there is no such thing as friendly games. We just try to go all in. There is like, I don't understand an attitude where you get on the pitch and you settle for having a friendly game. We played in 11v11 1 week ago on training. They were going all in. People kick people up and they were just going like very hard on each other. And I think that's what we need. And we need a training environment, also a game environment where we're competitive. Each and every time we try to push them. And I think even going into semifinals, that would be a very nice thing. But still, like we're in here to compete. So if we play a semifinal, we'll go all in without any doubts.
Para él no hay partidos amistosos que si ellos cuando ellos van a la cancha ellos van a ganar, que la semana pasada la práctica tuvieron 11 y que están pegando entre ellas mismas, que para ellos no hay amistoso, que si están en una semifinal van a luchar.
Y es consciente que si ganas el título, te ganarás el puesto definitivamente en Royals.
And if you win the Summer Cup, do you think you'll stay as a
We'll see. No, I think my first job and my first priority is just to do my thing and try to obviously get this team back on the rails. I think that my personal thing and the thing that I like to do is develop players as much as possible, and I think that's just what we're doing right now. We're very loyal to the club. What happens, what doesn't happen. There will always be a reason. I think there's always also a reason why you're at a certain place, and things work out well. They work out well. If they don't, there will be a reason. So we'll see. And I'm teaching Spanish, so maybe in a few weeks or months I will be able to answer. But I'm on Spanish courses, so I'm trying. Step by step, baby steps, but step by step.
We'll quiz you after training.
Sorry?
We'll quiz you after training.
Perfect. You can challenge me. I like that. No problem.
Awesome. Perfect. All right. Thank you, Jimmy.
Thank you.